Sign over the deed to that rental property, Marcus, or I swear to God, I'll make you lose everything, your business, your reputation, every single house you bought while I was locked up. You think 18 months in prison taught me a lesson? It taught me patience. It taught me how to plan. Now sign the damn papers or watch me destroy you piece by piece. Veronica Chambers stood on my front porch at 6:30 on a Saturday morning, her hot pink blazer pressed sharp as a knife. That same predatory smile I remembered from before her conviction. In her manicured hands, she clutched a thick folder and a pen she kept clicking like a weapon. Behind her, two men in dark suits stood silent, hired muscle or witnesses, I couldn't tell which. Prison had made her thinner, sharper, meaner, but that cold calculation in her eyes, the absolute certainty that she deserved to control Riverside Meadows, that hadn't changed one damn bit. I stood in my doorway, coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips, staring at the woman who'd spent 15 years terrorizing our Charlotte, North Carolina neighborhood with fabricated violations and $300 fines for having trash cans visible for 10 minutes. The woman who'd embezzled $14,000 from HOA emergency funds. The woman we'd finally put in prison after years of documented abuse. And now she was back, demanding I sign over property I'd legally purchased, threatening to destroy me if I refused. I set my coffee down slowly, pulled out my phone, and started recording. Veronica, you have 10 seconds to get off my property before I call the police. Her smile widened, showing too many teeth. Call them. I've already filed complaints with the city about your illegal rental operations. I've documented every code violation on every property you bought. And when I'm done, Marcus Chen, you're gonna beg me to just take one house instead of taking them all. She was wrong about one thing. I wasn't begging, I was documenting. Because this time, I knew exactly what happened when you let a HOA tyrant think they'd won. I'm Marcus Chen, 42 years old, commercial real estate analyst, and the person who'd spent 18 months turning Riverside Meadows from Veronica Chambers' personal fiefdom into an actual community while she served time for embezzlement and abuse of authority. The property I'd bought 15 single-family homes along the HOA boundary had been my investment strategy. Distressed properties, foreclosures, homes sold cheap by families fleeing Veronica's harassment. I'd renovated them, rented them fairly, stabilized the neighborhood property values. Everything legal, everything documented, everything by the book. But standing there looking at Veronica's face, I realized she didn't care about legality. She cared about control. And in her mind, every house I'd purchased was territory stolen from her personal kingdom. You're trespassing, I said calmly. Phone still recording. Leave now, or I'm calling 911. One of the suited men behind her shifted forward. Veronica raised a hand, stopping him. Marcus, Marcus, Marcus. She shook her head like I was a disappointing child, still playing the victim, still pretending you're the good guy. But I've been watching, I've been researching. I know about the zoning violations on Oak Street, the unpermitted additions on Maple, the rental agreements that violate HOA bylaws you helped write while I was gone. Every word was a lie, but she delivered them with the confidence of someone who'd practiced this speech for months. I kept my phone steady, capturing her face, her threats, her two silent witnesses. I'm giving you 48 hours, she continued, tapping the folder against her palm. Sign over the property at 847 Riverside Drive, the 4-bedroom you're renting to that immigrant family, and I'll forget about the rest. Refuse, and I'll bury you in legal fees, city complaints, and violations until you can't afford to keep any of them. She stepped closer, and I could smell her perfume. Expensive. Aggressive. The scent of someone who thought intimidation was a strategy rather than a crime. I built this neighborhood, she hissed. I made it respectable. I protected property values while people like you just saw dollar signs. Now I'm taking back what's mine. I'd heard enough. First, I said, voice level, I'm not signing anything. Second, this conversation is being recorded and will be forwarded to your parole officer and the police. Third, You're violating the conditions of your release by harassing residents you were convicted of targeting. Fourth, you have 5 seconds before I press the panic button. Chief Reynolds gave me specifically for this situation. Veronica's smile faltered, just for a second, just long enough for me to see the rage beneath the confidence. You think you're so smart, she said, voice dropping to something colder. You think your cameras and your lawyers protect you. But Marcus, she leaned in close enough that the phone captured every word. I spent 18 months planning this. I know where you eat lunch. I know what time your assistant leaves the office. I know which tenants are behind on rent and which ones have kids who might get hurt playing in those unfenced yards. Direct threat, implied violence against children, all captured on video with timestamp. We're done here, I said, pulling out my actual phone to dial 911. Veronica stepped back, that cold smile returning. 48 hours, Marcus. Clock's ticking. She turned and walked down my front steps, her pink blazer catching the morning sunlight like a warning flag. The two suited men followed, and I noticed one of them had been recording the entire interaction on his phone. Mutual documentation. This was going to be war. I called 911 first, reported the threat, requested an officer. Then I called my attorney, Stephanie Park Sharp, relentless, someone who'd helped build the case that put Veronica away the first time. She's back, I said when Stephanie answered. Showed up at 6:30, demanding I sign over property, made threats against my tenants' children. I have it all on video. Stephanie was silent for 3 seconds. Send me the video. Now. Then don't engage with her again. Don't respond, don't acknowledge. Just document everything and let me handle it. She said she's been watching me. She knows my routine. That's stalking. That's a parole violation. Marcus, this is actually good for us. Every threat, every violation, every stupid thing she does builds our case. She thinks she's being smart, but she's hanging herself. An officer arrived 20 minutes later, young guy, professional, clearly tired of HOA disputes. I showed him the video. He took notes, filed a report, but his expression said what we both knew. Until Veronica actually did something beyond verbal threats, police options were limited. Keep recording everything, he advised. If she comes back, call immediately. If she touches your property or contacts your tenants, that's actionable. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table and did what I do best: organized data, created a spreadsheet. Column A, date, time. Column B, Veronica's action. Column C, evidence. Column D, witnesses. Column E, legal violations. First entry, Saturday, the 18th of November, 2024, 6:32 a.m. trespassing. Threats, implied violence against minors. Video evidence, 2 witnesses present. I'd learned something important during Veronica's first reign of terror. Documentation beats emotion. Facts beat volume. And patience beats rage. If she wanted war, I'd fight with evidence, lawyers, and the legal system she'd already been convicted of abusing. But as I sat there reviewing the video, her face twisted with rage, her pink blazer like armor, her absolute certainty that intimidation would work, I couldn't shake one thought. Veronica Chambers had spent 18 months in prison planning revenge. She'd come back with a strategy, resources, and absolutely nothing to lose. This wasn't going to be a quick fight. This was going to be brutal. And somewhere in Charlotte, she was probably sitting in her house right now, planning her next move while I documented her last one. The question wasn't whether she'd escalate. The question was how soon and how violent it would get before the system finally stopped her for good. I backed up the video to 3 cloud services, sent copies to Stephanie and my parole officer contact, then did something I'd been avoiding. I called an emergency meeting with the Riverside Meadows HOA board. Because if Veronica was targeting me, she was targeting everyone. And this time, we needed to be united before she could divide us again. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Day 1 of 48. Better start packing. I screenshot it, added it to my evidence folder, and poured another cup of coffee. Game on, Veronica! But this time, you're playing against someone who knows all your moves. 3 days after Veronica's Saturday morning threat, I found the first violation notice. Not in my mailbox. She was smarter than that. It was taped to the door of my rental property on Oak Street, the one where the Rodriguez family lived with their 3 kids. Plain white envelope, no postage. Hand-delivered sometime between midnight and 6 a.m. based on my security camera timestamps that caught a shadow moving but not a clear face. Inside, 2 pages of single-spaced violations, formatted to look official with old Riverside Meadows HOA letterhead from before her conviction. The violations were ridiculous: grass height, 3.2 inches, limit, allegedly 3 inches, mailbox, weathering, car parked in driveway overnight, children's toys, visible from street. Each violation carried a $500 fine, total $2,000, payable within 48 hours to HOA Compliance Fund with a P.O. box I didn't recognize. At the bottom in bold, Veronica Chambers, Acting HOA President, Enforcement Division. Acting President, Enforcement Division. Terms that sounded official but meant absolutely nothing because Veronica held zero authority in the HOA. I photographed everything, then knocked on the Rodriguez's door. Maria Rodriguez answered, her face tight with worry. Mr. Chen, we got this letter. Are we being fined? We can't afford. Maria, stop. I held up the letter. This is fake. Veronica Chambers has no authority. She's not on the HOA board. She can't fine anyone. This is harassment, and it's illegal. Her husband Carlos appeared behind her, but it looks official. It has the HOA logo. Stolen letterhead. I explained. The current HOA president is David Morrison. He didn't authorize this. Veronica is using old materials and fake authority to scare people into paying money that goes directly to her, not the HOA. I spent 20 minutes explaining the situation, showing them North Carolina HOA statutes on my phone, giving them Stephanie's contact information. Don't pay anything, I emphasized. Don't respond. Just document it and forward everything to me. After I left, I drove through Riverside Meadows, checking my other rental properties, found violation notices on 4 more doors. Same format? Same ridiculous violations? Same threats? Veronica was targeting my tenants' families who were vulnerable, who might not understand HOA law, who might just pay to make the problem go away. Classic predator strategy. Isolate, intimidate, extract. But she'd made a mistake. Every letter was physical evidence of fraud, harassment, and impersonation of HOA authority. I collected all 5 notices, photographed them in sequence, and called Stephanie. She's escalating faster than I expected, Stephanie said after I described the violation letters. 5 fraudulent notices in one night. That's 5 counts of fraud, 5 counts of impersonation, systematic harassment of multiple families. What do we do? I'm filing for an emergency restraining order today. This isn't just threats anymore. She's actively defrauding your tenants. And Marcus, I'm calling Detective Sarah Brennan at Charlotte-Mecklenburg PD. She handled the original embezzlement case. She'll want to know Veronica's violating parole conditions. That afternoon, I organized a meeting with all 5 affected families at my office downtown. Explained the situation, showed them the law, gave them documentation packets Stephanie had prepared. One tenant elderly man named Mr. Patterson, who rented my property on Maple Street, raised his hand like we were in school. Mr. Chen, I already paid. She called me yesterday, said if I paid immediately, she'd waive the other fines. I gave her $500 cash. My stomach dropped. You met with her in person? No, she sent someone. Young man, maybe 30, said he was HOA enforcement officer. I paid him, got a receipt. Do you still have the receipt? Mr. Patterson pulled it out of his wallet. Handwritten receipt on plain paper, signature illegible, dated 2 days ago. That was extortion. Direct financial theft through fraudulent representation. Mr. Patterson, that money is gone. but we're going to get it back through the courts, and the person who collected it committed a felony. Did you get a photo of him?" He shook his head, but his neighbor woman named Lisa Chen, who lived across the street, pulled out her phone. I thought it was weird, so I took a picture from my window when he knocked on Mr. Patterson's door. She showed me the photo. Young, white male, dark polo shirt, carrying a clipboard. Face clearly visible. "Send that to me immediately," I said. "That's evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud." After the meeting, I drove to the police station. Asked for Detective Brennan. She remembered me. We'd worked together extensively during Veronica's original prosecution. Marcus Chen. She smiled, but it faded when she saw my expression. "Don't tell me Veronica's causing problems already. I laid out everything. The Saturday morning threats, the fraudulent violation notices, Mr. Patterson's $500 payment, the photo of the collection agent." Detective Brennan's expression darkened as she reviewed the evidence on my laptop. She's been out 6 weeks and she's already running an extortion racket. She picked up her phone. "I'm calling her parole officer right now. This violates at least 4 conditions of her release." While she made the call, I organized the evidence into a presentation folder. Video of the threats, copies of fake violation notices, photo of the collection agent, Mr. Patterson's receipt, statements from all 5 families. Detective Brennan hung up and turned to me. "Her PO is going to do a home visit tomorrow. If she finds any evidence of this operation letterhead, receipts, records, that's grounds for immediate parole violation. Veronica could be back in prison within a week. What should I do in the meantime?" "Keep documenting. Don't engage with her directly. If she contacts you or shows up at any property, call 911 immediately. And Marcus," she leaned forward, "she's going to escalate. When people like Veronica feel cornered, they don't back down, they double down. Be prepared for that." I left the station feeling like I'd done everything right, but Detective Brennan's warning stuck with me. She's going to escalate. That night, I installed additional security cameras on all 5 rental properties, upgraded to 24/7 cloud recording with motion detection, set up alerts on my phone for any activity after 10 p.m. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected, Oak Street property. I pulled up the live feed. A vehicle, dark SUV, no plates visible, parked across the street. Someone in the driver's seat, phone screen illuminating their face. Veronica, in that pink blazer, even at midnight. Just sitting there, watching the Rodriguez house. I recorded the feed, zoomed in on her face, captured timestamps. 23 minutes, she sat there before driving away slowly, deliberately. Not illegal, she was on a public street. But combined with everything else, pattern of stalking, pattern of surveillance, pattern of intimidation. I sent the video to Detective Brennan with a simple message. She's watching my tenants' homes at midnight. Her response came at 7 a.m., adding to violation report. PO visit happening this afternoon, but at 9 a.m. my phone rang. Maria Rodriguez, voice shaking. "Mr. Chen, someone slashed our tires. All 4 of them, sometime last night. I drove over immediately. All 4 tires on their minivan, flat, deep cuts, clearly deliberate. Security camera showed the dark SUV returning at 3:17 a.m., someone in dark clothes and a mask approaching the vehicle, quick movements, then disappearing. I couldn't see Veronica's face, but I could see the pink blazer under the dark jacket. Criminal mischief, property destruction, witness intimidation, police report filed, photos documented. Video evidence preserved. Veronica Chambers had just crossed from harassment into active crime, and somewhere in Charlotte, her parole officer was about to knock on her door and discover just how badly she'd violated the terms of her release. The war was escalating. But this time, every move she made just tightened the legal noose around her neck. I just hoped we'd stop her before someone got hurt. The parole violation hearing happened faster than I expected. 4 days after the tire slashing, I sat in a windowless courtroom at the Mecklenburg County Justice Center, watching Veronica Chambers stand before a judge who looked thoroughly unimpressed. She'd dressed for court navy suit instead of the pink blazer, hair pulled back, expression carefully neutral. Her attorney, expensive-looking man in his 50s, stood beside her, shuffling papers. The prosecutor laid out the violations methodically. 5 fraudulent HOA violation notices sent to residents, collection of $500 through false representation, threatening language toward Marcus Chen and his tenants, nighttime surveillance of multiple properties, criminal mischief, with video evidence showing suspect in clothing matching defendant's known wardrobe. The judge reviewed the evidence packet, my videos, photos, police reports, witness statements. When the prosecutor played the video of Veronica at my door, threatening violence against kids who might get hurt playing in unfenced yards, the judge's expression hardened. Veronica's attorney tried to argue, "Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence. The alleged violations are circumstantial. The surveillance video doesn't clearly show her face during the tire incident. Miss Chambers was simply exercising her right as a concerned former HOA president to former president convicted of embezzlement and abuse of authority," the judge interrupted, "who is now apparently running an extortion scheme targeting the same community she victimized before." He looked directly at Veronica. "Miss Chambers, you were released on strict conditions. No contact with HOA residents, no involvement in HOA business, no harassment of witnesses from your original case. Within 6 weeks, you violated all 3 conditions multiple times. Your Honor, I was simply trying to restore order to, you collected money through fraudulent notices. You stalked residents at midnight. Video evidence suggests your involvement in property destruction." He closed the file. "Parole is revoked. You'll serve the remainder of your original sentence, 14 months, plus additional time for parole violations pending criminal charges." Veronica's face went white. "You can't. This isn't fair. I have rights." "Marshal, take her into custody." As the marshal approached with handcuffs, Veronica twisted toward me. Our eyes met across the courtroom, and I saw pure hatred there. "This isn't over," she mouthed silently. "My daughter." The marshal cut her off, securing her hands and leading her toward the holding area, but that last part echoed in my mind. My daughter. After the hearing, I met Stephanie in the hallway. "That went better than expected," she said. 14 months minimum, possibly more when the criminal charges get filed." She mentioned her daughter at the end, said something about her daughter. Stephanie's expression shifted. "I'll look into that." Veronica has 1 adult child, Jennifer Chambers, 34, lives in Raleigh. No criminal record, but I'll do a background check. Detective Brennan joined us. Good outcome. She'll be in custody for over a year, which gives us time to build the criminal case properly. The tire slashing alone is $2,000 in damages, plus intimidation charges. What about the money she collected from Mr. Dog? Patterson? Restitution will be part of the criminal sentencing. He'll get his $500 back, plus damages. We discussed next steps, criminal trial timeline, civil lawsuit for damages, additional security measures. But I couldn't shake the look in Veronica's eyes when she'd mentioned her daughter. That night, I researched Jennifer Chambers, found her LinkedIn marketing manager at a tech company, professional headshot, normal online presence. Facebook showed occasional posts about work, travel, nothing concerning. But digging deeper, I found something interesting. 3 years ago, Jennifer had posted a long rant about corrupt HOA board members destroying my mother's life and false accusations from jealous neighbors. She'd believed Veronica's version of events. Believed her mother was the victim. And if Veronica was in prison now, would Jennifer see herself as needing to continue what her mother started? I sent the information to Stephanie and Detective Brennan with a note. Potential concern. Recommend monitoring. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Life returned to careful normalcy. My tenants relaxed. The HOA board sent out a community-wide email confirming Veronica was in custody and had no authority. Property values stabilized. I'd almost convinced myself the threat was over when the letter arrived. Plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from Raleigh. Inside, a single sheet of paper with printed text. My mother dedicated her life to that neighborhood. You destroyed her because you wanted power and profit. But I see what you did. I have all her documentation, and I will finish what she started. You'll lose everything you stole from her. This is just the beginning. No signature, but attached was a photo recent shot of me leaving my office downtown, clearly taken within the last week. Someone had been watching me, following me, documenting my movements. Jennifer Chambers was continuing her mother's war. I photographed the letter, called Stephanie and Detective Brennan immediately. We met that afternoon at the police station. This is a direct threat, Detective Brennan said, examining the letter. And surveillance. The photo proves she's been following you. Can we get a restraining order? Based on this? Absolutely. We'll file tomorrow. She pulled up Jennifer's information on her computer. I'm going to have a conversation with her. Make it clear that continuing her mother's harassment campaign will result in criminal charges. Stephanie added, we're also amending the civil lawsuit to include Jennifer as a defendant if she takes any action against your properties or tenants. One letter might be protected speech, but combine it with surveillance and her mother's history, we have grounds for a harassment claim. I left the station feeling like we'd responded appropriately, but the letter stayed with me. The certainty in the language, the conviction that I'd stolen something from Veronica. Jennifer truly believed her mother's lies. That night, I upgraded security again. Added cameras covering my office, my car, the routes I typically drove. Started varying my schedule. Stopped parking in the same spots. If Jennifer was watching, I'd make it harder. 2 days later, one of my tenants called Lisa Chen from Maple Street. Marcus, there's a woman taking photos of your rental houses. White woman, 30 seconds. Nice camera. She's been here for an hour, photographing every angle. Don't approach her, I said. I'll be there in 15 minutes. When I arrived, she was gone. But Lisa had photos, clear shots, of a woman matching Jennifer Chambers' profile, professional camera, notebook, systematically documenting each property. Building a case, gathering ammunition. I forwarded everything to Detective Brennan. Her response? Meeting with Jennifer Chambers tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Raleigh PD. We'll inform her that any further contact with you or your properties constitutes harassment and stalking. This needs to stop now. But at 9:47 p.m. that night, 13 minutes before Detective Brennan was scheduled to meet with Jennifer, I got an alert. Fire alarm at Oak Street property, the Rodriguez house. I called 911 while driving, heart pounding. Arrived to find fire trucks already there, smoke billowing from the garage, firefighters working to contain it. Maria Rodriguez stood on the lawn with her kids, crying. Carlos had his arms around them. The fire chief approached me after 20 minutes. Looks like arson. Accelerant detected. Someone poured gasoline around the garage door and lit it. If your tenants hadn't woken up and called immediately, this could have been much worse. I felt cold rage settle into my bones. Detective Brennan arrived with 2 other officers. Jennifer Chambers was scheduled to meet me at 10 a.m. It's now 10:15. She never showed. We've got a warrant out for her and we're treating this as attempted murder. The fire was contained to the garage. Damage, approximately $40,000. But the message was clear. Jennifer Chambers had graduated from surveillance and threats to actual violence, and now she was on the run. The manhunt for Jennifer Chambers lasted 6 days. 6 days of coordinated law enforcement, security alerts, and constant vigilance, while my neighborhood lived in fear that she'd strike again. I moved the Rodriguez family to a hotel at my expense, hired private security to patrol my rental properties 24/7, installed panic buttons in every tenant's home connected directly to police dispatch. Charlotte-Mecklenburg PD issued a BOLO, be on the lookout, for Jennifer's vehicle's silver Honda Accord, North Carolina plates. FBI got involved because she'd crossed state lines fleeing from Raleigh to Charlotte. Media picked up the story. Daughter of convicted HOA president wanted for arson. Local news ran Jennifer's photo constantly. Tips flooded and reported sightings from 3 different states, none credible. But on day 6, she made a mistake. She returned to Riverside Meadows. My phone lit up at 2:47 a.m. Motion detection on Oak Street property, the burned garage. I pulled up the live feed and felt my breath catch. Jennifer Chambers stood in front of the charred garage, filming it on her phone, not hiding. Not running, just documenting her handiwork like she was proud of it. She wore dark clothes, hair pulled back, but her face was clearly visible in the streetlight. I called 911 immediately. Arson suspect Jennifer Chambers is at 847 Oak Street right now. Live video feed available. Police response was immediate. 4 cruisers converged on the location within 3 minutes. Jennifer saw them coming and ran, sprinted across yards, tried to jump a fence. Didn't make it. Officers tackled her in Mr. Patterson's backyard. I watched on my security feeds as they cuffed her, read her rights, loaded her into a patrol car. She was screaming the entire time. "That house belongs to my mother! He stole it! I was defending her property! You're arresting the wrong person!" The delusion was complete. In Jennifer's mind, she was the hero protecting her mother's legacy from a criminal thief. The next morning, I attended her arraignment. Federal charges: arson of occupied dwelling, attempted murder, the Rodriguez family, stalking, harassment, threatening communications, conspiracy to commit fraud. State charges: criminal mischief, trespassing, violation of restraining order, emergency order filed after the arson. Bail set at $500,000. Jennifer couldn't make it. She'd spend months in custody awaiting trial, just like her mother. The prosecutor's stern woman in her 50s named Diana Torres approached me after the hearing. "Mr. Chin, this case is airtight. Video evidence, forensics, threatening letter, surveillance photos. Jennifer Chambers is looking at 15 to 20 years minimum if convicted on all counts. Will it go to trial? Probably not. Her public defender will recommend a plea deal, but even with a deal, she's facing serious prison time. I should have felt relieved, vindicated, safe. Instead, I felt exhausted. 2 generations of Chambers women had spent combined decades terrorizing a neighborhood over imagined authority and property rights. 2 generations now in custody, facing significant prison time. And for what? Because Veronica couldn't accept that HOA presidents aren't dictators? Because Jennifer believed her mother's lies about victimhood? I walked out of the courthouse into bright December sunshine. My phone buzzed with messages from tenants, from the HOA board, from neighbors, all expressing relief that Jennifer was in custody. The Rodriguez family was safe. The neighborhood was safe. My properties were protected, but standing there on the courthouse steps, I couldn't shake one thought. What if there were more? What if Veronica had other relatives, other supporters who believed her narrative? What if this cycle of harassment and violence never really ended? Stephanie met me for coffee that afternoon. "You did everything right, Marcus. You documented, you followed legal procedures, you protected your tenants. Both Chambers women are in custody because they chose to commit crimes. That's on them, not you. I know. I struggled to articulate it. How many times do we have to fight the same battle?" "Until they stop fighting," she said simply. "But Marcus, you've set a precedent. You've shown that HOA tyrants can be held accountable, that communities don't have to accept abuse. That documentation and patience beat intimidation." She pulled out a folder. "I've been contacted by 3 other HOA boards in North Carolina asking for advice on handling similar situations. Your case is becoming a blueprint for standing up to abuse." That helped, knowing other communities might benefit from what we'd endured. 3 months later, both cases resolved. Veronica pled guilty to parole violations and received additional 3 years on top of her remaining sentence. Jennifer pled guilty to reduced charges, arson, stalking, assault, and received 12 years with possibility of parole after 8. The civil lawsuit settled. Veronica's remaining assets were liquidated. Restitution paid to all victims, including $500 to Mr. Patterson, $40,000 for the Rodriguez's garage, damages to everyone who'd received fraudulent violation notices. Jennifer's settlement included permanent restraining orders preventing any contact with Riverside Meadows residents or properties. The HOA board established new bylaws requiring financial transparency, term limits for board members, and formal complaint procedures. Named it the Chen Reform Package, which made me uncomfortable but honored. Life returned to actual normal. My rental properties thrived, tenants felt safe, the neighborhood healed. I kept the security cameras, kept the documentation systems, kept the emergency contacts list. Not because I expected more attacks, because I'd learned that vigilance isn't paranoia when it's based on experience. 1 year after Veronica's first return, I sat on my porch watching kids play basketball in the street. Maria Rodriguez waved from her rebuilt garage. Mr. Patterson tended his garden. Lisa Chen walked her dog. Peace. Real peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of safety, earned through patience, documentation, and refusing to be intimidated. My phone buzzed. Text from Stephanie. Prison mail monitor flagged a letter from Veronica to someone outside, for your information. Contained usual victim narrative about stolen kingdom and revenge eventually. Monitored but not actionable. I screenshot it, added it to my permanent evidence folder, and set my phone down. Let her write letters. Let her nurse grievances. Let her spend the next 3 years believing she was wronged. I'd spend those years building community, supporting tenants, and proving that kindness backed by careful documentation was stronger than any amount of rage. The Chamber's women had taught me valuable lessons. Trust the system. Document everything. Never engage emotionally. And most importantly, sometimes the best revenge is simply living well while your enemies destroy themselves through their own inability to let go. Riverside Meadows was free. My tenants were safe. And Veronica Chambers, in her prison cell, could spend years planning revenge that would never come. Because this time, we'd won completely. And we'd stay vigilant to make sure we never had to fight this battle again.